I have to say, in Taiwan, especially since 2016, when the whole country started its path to become Asia's first country to legalize same-sex marriage, there was phenomenal PR and media coverage that I think for a long time never happened here in Taiwan before. And it was not about semiconductors, and it was not about cross-strait relations. So that really kind of built a basis for people to know what Taiwan is as a country and how open and liberal and inviting it is.
It's quite easy to imagine that perhaps existing services like tourism may be able to be expanded or customized for LGBT plus population.
With Pride Month celebrating the LGBT plus community globally and last month's anniversary here in Taiwan of a landmark same-sex marriage legislation, we today are taking a look at the pink economy. Welcome to Taiwan Plus Point, offering insight and analysis on the latest global news from a Taiwan perspective. I'm Ian Kavat, and today I'm joined by Moriaki Kida, Chair and CEO of EY Japan, who's joining us from Tokyo, and Jay Lin, founder and CEO of Taiwan-based Portico Media. Kida-san, you are an executive in one of the world's largest professional services firms, and you have worked in North America and Europe for decades, and you've now come back to Japan. Could you tell our viewers about what the pink economy is and also how it's gained traction globally?
In my definition, pink economy refers to the purchasing power of many people around the world who identify themselves as LGBT plus, or those who may have different sexual orientation or gender identity themselves, which differs from countries to country, but in some markets could be considered to be over 30% of the population amongst the millennials. So it's a relatively large percentage of a minority in any geography. As I see, I'm in my 50s now, but having grown up for a long time in the United States, I've seen this market change very much. Back in the 80s, when it was still very difficult, even in the United States, to be out as an LGBT plus person, the market was not developed so much. But as time has gone on, it has moved from companies entering into the cosmetics, consumer products industries, but then into, for example, financial services and medical services as well. So it has developed quite a bit in certain markets over the past 30 years or so.
Jay, you are the founder of Asia's first successful LGBT plus content streaming platform. Can you share with us some of the markets that you target and the particular constraints on individuals there?
So the streaming service that you're talking about is Gaga Ulala, which is currently the largest LGBTQ streaming service in the world, and the first global OTT from Taiwan, with 2 million members and 1,600 titles from around the world, and distributed in 247 countries and regions. But I think I can talk about the growth for Gaga Ulala as a way to see how personally I've seen the pink economy grow. So Gaga Ulala started as a corporate social responsibility project since I started the Taiwan International Queer Film Festival in 2014 as a way to curate films that I love from around the world and share with the Taiwanese audience. And so when the inaugural festival was launched, the feedback was tremendous from the Taiwanese audience, LGBTQ as well as mainstream. And year after year, we expanded the cities where the festival was rolled out at, from Taiwan to Taichung to Taipei. And during that period of time, got a lot of interest and a lot of queries from the LGBT community in Southeast Asia, in Northeast Asia, and other parts of the world, asking when we can roll out this streaming service in their parts of the world. And that's when I realized, actually, by rolling out this service, there's an opportunity to connect with otherwise marginalized or even invisible audiences from around the world. So starting in 2017, I decided to roll out Gaga Ulala, starting in Taiwan first, and then into Southeast Asia, and then into South Asia. And in May of 2020, the first anniversary of same-sex marriage, it became a global platform. And once it became global, the pink economy scale became even more obvious to me. Currently in our service, the US is our largest market, followed by Taiwan, Philippines, Thailand. And then, but in the top 50 markets, we're seeing a lot of growth and a lot of traction and a lot of members from countries such as France and Germany and UK, Japan and Brazil. So this is like the sort of pink economy that Mr. Kida-san referred to, the purchasing power and the representation of LGBTQ communities spread across the world.
Kida-san, could I ask you, has there been any global backlash to the rise of the pink economy?
It's really a difficult topic because while I have not necessarily seen a direct impact or negative impact on LGBT individuals, there has been, to my knowledge. For example, a Japanese company who has made clear that they would like to honor LGBT people and the employee population globally, in a press release, had a anti-buying movement in some countries in Southeast Asia, for example. While I have not seen necessarily people being hurt, I have also seen certain financial services industries told that they may lose license to operate in certain countries if that company voices or directly involves themselves in certain pink dot movements. So while it might be limited into certain geographies, it does happen from time to time.
And Jay, have you also experienced any sort of difficult times arising from prejudice?
Not every country or region is like Taiwan, which is so open and relatively accepting of sexual minorities. So when we're rolling out in countries that are quite conservative, whether it's culturally or religiously, we get a lot of pushback and a lot of anti-gay activation or activism from people who report us to Facebook or IG or YouTube to try and shut us down. But while that is happening, something that we're so grateful of is to find LGBTQ influencers and other media outlets and other companies come to our rescue and partner up with us to promote queer stories that they themselves feel moved by and influenced by, and using their own sort of base of influence through their social media, through their followers, to get the message out that this service is available. So what was once kind of like a very challenging task for us has now become a very well-meshed network of influencers, key opinion leaders, and creators, filmmakers, producers, production companies who are all involved with us in trying to tell great queer stories to all corners of the world.
And for people who haven't visited your platform, could you tell us the range of content?
And currently on our platform, 70% of the content actually is from Asia, which is a composition that is quite different than when we initially launched. Initially, it was mostly Western content, but we spent a lot of effort to find gems and pearls and treasures from all the other filmmakers, production companies, and creators that otherwise before had no platform or no distribution for their stories to be seen and to be told. And phenomenally, we have realized that this type of content, the Asian voice, the Asian queer voice, is actually resonating well, not only within Asia, but in rest of the world, especially amongst the Gen Z and the millennials.
Kida-san, the pink economy is estimated at around 3.9 trillion US dollars a year, and it's rising. And the estimated global LGBT plus population globally is 400 million, which is similar to the US and Japan's populations combined. With EY's outreach to 150 countries, how have you seen the pink economy give rise to new businesses and new opportunities within EY itself?
So in EY, we have this group called Unity, which is an ERG, employee resource group for LGBT people and their allies to participate in different activities to not just internally, but also within the societies that we operate, to increase the knowledge and the tolerance for LGBT people or understanding for LGBT people. In doing these activities, what we've seen is that many companies, especially with the latest driver of the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, which have become so important to many companies, have realized that it is not important just to address these addressable markets, whether it's media and entertainment, consumer products, or financial services products, but that they themselves have to also change, because it's really actually a business risk to market themselves to the consumers, to the customers, that they have these LGBT friendly products, but they themselves, if they are not treating their employees equitably, that they actually do or can get a backlash about their own purpose and existence and their ambitions that they might have. So it's easy to kind of imagine the power, the economic power of the LGBT consumers. It has started to become really important for companies themselves to also focus on human rights issues, especially related to LGBT plus people. In my discussions with many C-suites, it's really encouraging to see, not just because of the SDG movement, but companies are really starting to think about their employee welfare and well-being, but also developing new products that did not exist before. It's quite easy to imagine that perhaps existing services like tourism may be able to be expanded or customized for LGBT plus population. But for example, in Japan, there are certain companies that are now starting to develop products for transgender people, which did not exist as a market or as products before. And so it's not just about buying or capturing existing market. It's an opportunity to develop new markets for companies as well as for their employees' well-being.
Jay, your business directly targets consumers. How has your experience shown how the pink economy can offer new business opportunities in Taiwan and other countries?
I have to say, in Taiwan, especially since 2016, when the whole country started its path to become Asia's first country to legalize same-sex marriage, there was phenomenal PR and media coverage that I think for a long time never happened here in Taiwan before. And it was not about semiconductors, and it was not about cross-strait relations. So that really kind of built a basis for people to know what Taiwan is as a country and how open and liberal and inviting it is. And case in point of how this has kind of reached an apex would be when I first came back to Taiwan in 2004 and 2005, and went to the Taipei Pride. I only saw couple thousand people, and maybe a quarter of them were wearing masks. So because they wanted to conceal their identity. So we fast forward to 2019, after same-sex was legalized, and there were 200,000 people who convened together from all parts of the world to celebrate this achievement. We can take a look at the Taipei Pride, and unfortunately, we're now getting to the tail end of COVID. But I think after we have fully, found ways to live with COVID, and the borders are open again, I think pink tourism in Taiwan is slated to be huge. I mean, just last month we had the Asia Pride Games here for the first time, and in 2025, Taiwan will be the place where World Pride takes place for the first time in Asia. So we can see a lot of tourism with people coming from Asia and all parts of the world to kind of breathe in the openness and kind of like the diversity and inclusion of this country. I think another one that I hope personally, as a gay dad, could grow quite a bit is families. So in the United States, according to the UCLA Williams Institute, there are over 300,000 children under 18 living in LGBTQ households. And currently in Taiwan, at least according to the LGBTQ Family Association, there are only a couple hundred or thousands, of which I'm a member. And so we can see and imagine after marriage, couples or even single intended parents wanting to start families. And I think it's easily become very foreseeable for people to see Taiwan as the best place to raise their rainbow families. And I think that would impact not only tourism, but also education, also attracting great talents, parents to want to come settle their roots here, to raise their children here. And also it would really kind of help our current declining population and our low birth rate. And third, I think it's the industry that I'm in, the creative industry. I think people see Taiwan as a very special place where there's relatively very little censorship, and they can have free thoughts and free ideas and free stories to work with other creators. And other creators are incentivized and motivated to actually come to Taiwan, to make Taiwan a place where they create their projects, which then can go out and connect with financing or distribution or resources elsewhere. For example, with our Gaga Ulala, we've done over 50 original productions in the last 4 years, and 16 of those are actually co-productions with other parts of the world, including Japan, including the Philippines, Thailand, even with PBS, the public broadcaster in the United States. And the fourth one is, I think, as the pink economy grows, more businesses and entrepreneurs like myself are going to see Taiwan as a place where they can feel comfortable to bring their money here, to recruit talent here, and to be able to expand from what it is that they want to do, starting in Taiwan, but reaching out to the rest of the world. And it's great that Taiwan, we also have a very strong tech sector that's moving more and more to the software side. And I think this will go quite well in creating scale and branding for the pink economy in Taiwan.
And if you could sum up in just a few words, what is it that makes Taiwan such an exciting place for the pink economy?
Our openness, our inclusion, and our willingness to embrace diversity. And so we're open arms to inviting people who feel marginalized or who feel inspired to come here and do their thing, whether that's a film or a business or families.
Kida-san, and can Taiwan learn from the rest of Asia or vice versa?
Well, thank you. I cannot agree with Jay more than what he said. It's incredible what Taiwan has accomplished. At EY, we have this purpose called building a better working world. And I feel that Taiwan as a geography and country has such a strong purpose of who you are and it's a shining light to rest of Asia, but also for the world. The reason why I say that is because from the openness for the inclusion, what Jay was talking about, Taiwan is showing that your values are changing and that you're embracing change as a step forward for the better lives of next generation of people in Taiwan, but also for the rest of the world. I strongly feel from that perspective, Taiwan is a role model, not just for Asia, within Asia, but also for the rest of the world. For example, looking at the business side, unfortunately, living in Japan in the past 5 years, I have seen loss of certain very important assets to our country, which is obviously our people. But that few of those people have moved to Taiwan that I have known. Some have moved to the United States or Canada. And these are because people felt stronger in Taiwan or in the US or Canada that they can pursue their own happiness because those places offered clearer purpose for the people who live there, which might be signalized by legalized marriage or anti-discrimination laws. So I believe Taiwan can continue to use both this innovation and willingness to change for the betterment of lives of next generation, but also soft power, including media, to let other people around the world that differences and embracement of different people and values are where we go in the future.
Kida-san and Jay, you are both out LGBT plus executives, and you've made the Financial Times out executive list. Kida-san, being the only out CEO of a multinational corporation in Japan, has this been tough, or have you seen benefits for this, for yourself and for the business?
Thank you first of all, I actually don't feel that I have deserved the award. But having said that, luckily, I have not had any negative experience being out in Japan. In fact, many companies and many CEOs have reached out here in Japan, but also throughout Asia, for me to talk to their employees about being in my position and being out. I think the background in many Asian countries is that people of my generation, born in the 60s or 70s, have had to live hiding their sexuality or their identity for a long time. And it's very difficult as the world and the culture shifts to accept them, to suddenly come out and share with their loved ones and their friends and co-workers who they really were, because it's a very different and difficult step to make. However, I feel, as Jay mentioned towards the beginning of our conversation today, that LGBT people may be invisible, but we exist everywhere. And so I felt that being out and being visible is a really important choice that I had to make 5 years ago when I returned to Japan.
And Jay, you yourself were in the United States and you decided to move back to Taiwan. You mentioned that you were here in 2004, 2005. Why did you make that decision, and did it change your life?
Yeah, well, I made the decision because I wanted to leave the law practice I was in, and I had an opportunity to start an animation studio in Singapore. And of course, that project or that company didn't go as planned. And I was already in Asia. And since I've been a parachute kid since I was 9 years old, it was an opportunity for me to reconnect with my roots, see more of my parents, and come to a country where I feel like maybe I can start a business in media without a lot of the baggage or legacy as would be in California and Hollywood. And so to answer your question, I am amazed every day that I have the opportunity to use business as a catalyst, as a push for change in culture, in society, and as we've seen in Taiwan in legislation, and improve the happiness index and the connectedness index of people not only in Taiwan, but hopefully from what we're doing with Gaga Ulala or what we're doing as a country, we can inspire others, our neighbors such as Japan or Thailand or Philippines or wherever else, to see that it is possible for them to achieve same-sex marriage. It is possible for marginalized people to be visible and to be celebrated and to be CEOs and to be entrepreneurs or to be engineers or to be politicians. And doing entrepreneurship or starting a business is very tough, but that gives me bolts of energy every day to continue to make a difference.
Kita-san, lastly, the talent wars are obviously fundamental for any businesses where people are key assets. From EY's perspective, how has embracing LGBT inclusion helped to recruit, develop, and retain talent? And what impact has that had on the overall business?
Yes, thank you. So from a business standpoint, it has become really important, but also really obvious that embracing diversity, equity, and inclusion is a really important factor in being an attractive workplace. And it's really interesting. I had the privilege of speaking to your digital minister, Audrey Tan, almost 2 years ago about this topic. But EY Japan being one of the first companies to provide different and quite high level or wide-reaching benefits to LGBT plus people. What happened within our company culture is that it is not just that understanding for LGBT people or acceptance of LGBT people have increased. It had a halo effect of really advancing all of diversity, inclusion, and equity components and values that we have. So what I remember really clearly from my conversation with Audrey was that when you try to address a certain issue within a company, it actually expands to resolve many other problems that the company or society might have. And that translates to our people talking externally outside of EY in society about what positive change has come out and to affect different other companies. And then lastly, I feel that there's a few real examples that I see. At EY, when we started to recruit about 3 years ago, using our value of embracing DE&I, we had asked one of, not just one, but all of our people recruiting in college campuses to wear this unity badge, which is EY, it's hard to see, but EY with a rainbow color. And in that first year that we used this badge, we already had many LGBT people come out during the interview, and even those who were not LGBT started to talk to us about diversity, equity, and inclusion policy at EY, which became a really big attractive quality of EY.
Jay, with any of these positive discrimination policies, is there a risk that it can be seen as a process that's not based on merit, and therefore it could actually harm what you're trying to build, which is, the inclusion, the integration of LGBT individuals into the workplace?
So I have to say our company is predominantly LGBT, but not entirely. And we have colleagues from Spain, from Thailand, from Hong Kong, from Nepal, and more other countries who are interested in coming to Taiwan or who are in Taiwan already who want to join our company and who believe in our mission statement and the products and services that we're providing. And we look at people as individuals. I, to this day, don't know the sexual orientation of a lot of people in my company. So that 70% is a guess. So of course it comes down to the person's abilities and the person's merits and suitability for that particular role, regardless of sexual orientation or sex, for that matter. And I can positively say one of the key managers for Gaga Ooh La La, who's in charge with international marketing, is a heterosexual person from Spain. But he understands the product, he understands and is connected with the LGBT community and has the skill sets to do so. And to conclude on that, pink economy is not just the purchasing power, in my opinion, of the LGBT people, but it's the purchasing power of the people who are interested in consuming or purchasing LGBTQ-related content or product or services. For example, more and more LGBT and BL content today are being consumed not just by the LGBT community, but by a predominantly female audience around the world who enjoy watching gay romantic comedy series. And so this definition of pink economy is expanding. I think the people who are willing to be counted as LGBTQ are expanding, and we as a company need to take into account these changing trends and not put ourselves in little silos, but continue to remind ourselves that we are part of the community, and our mission is actually to move LGBTQ into the mainstream. And so in order to move into the mainstream, you need to also know the other voices and also the other opinions and points of view from people who are different than ourselves.
Okay, well, we'll have to end it there. Thank you so much to my guests, Jay Lin and Moriaki Kida. And thank you to our viewers for joining us on Point. For more information, please download the Taiwan Plus app. Stay safe and see you next time.